I want to go through how I know to write this equation one more time. And so how do I know to write distance is equal to speed times time? And so what I started to do is take the two properties in the problem. So there's two properties in this problem, distance and time, and then write the ratio of those two properties in this way. So the distance and the time, what connects the distance to the time is that ratio of those two properties. So the distance is equal to the distance per time times the time. So if you think of miles per hour, so this distance miles per time hour, if you multiply that times the number of hours you travel, that will give you the total distance. And so there's a pattern to set these up. So if you have the one property equals the ratio of those two properties times the second property, you're always going to set them up as the distance. For example, in this case, the distance is equal to the distance over the time times the time. So now look what happens algebraically is that these times cancel out. Time divided by time, and what that gives you in the end is the distance. So once again, if you have a certain speed, miles per hour, and you travel a certain number of hours, multiply by that certain number of hours, you're going to calculate the distance that you travel. And that distance times time has a special name, as it is the constant of proportionality, but in this case it has a special name called speed. So distance times time equals speed. And if we go back to what we've done a long time ago, y divided by x is equal to k, that constant proportionality. So in this case, distance divided by time is equal to the speed. And what that tells you is that distance is the amount of time it takes times a certain constant, and that's the speed that you're traveling. So that allows you to write the equation. The distance is equal to that speed that you're traveling times the time, because that's what this division means. How many t's are in this d, if you want to say it that way? And that answer is s, that certain number, that constant proportionality tells you the relationship of how many units of time it takes to cover that distance. So once again, this constant proportionality, speed, tells you how many units of time it takes to cover this distance. So then you can multiply speed times that number of units of time to get that distance. Now this is all with symbols, so it's hard to understand with symbols. You might go through this using some simple numbers, 10 miles, 2 minutes, what's that speed? And realize that, oh gee, the miles divided by the minutes does give me that speed. And so to figure out the distance, I can multiply that amount of time by that speed. So just try it with a few simple numbers and keep practicing, keep thinking about it. But how do you know how to write this equation? It goes back to two properties and the ratio of those two properties. And that ratio will oftentimes have a special name. It's the constant of proportionality. In this case, that special name is the speed.